everybody. This is John Burns with New Heights 360, and I have a very special guest today, the young, successful entrepreneur, Garrett Atkins. He is the founder and owner of VIE Media, and he also is a co-owner of St. Louis Podcasts. And he's also a professional gamer. It just never ends with this guy.
Yeah. I wouldn't say professional, but yeah, I Twitch stream. So.
Oh, I don't know. You make a little bit of money doing it,
A little
don't
bit
you?
of money.
Okay. What's a little bit of money? Just
anywhere from $600 to $1,000 a month. Yeah.
That's a nice little passive income.
This past month has been a little slow, though. I took a little bit of time off for work, so.
Absolutely. Well, in case you don't know, VIE Media is a fast emerging online marketing company, and they also do video. They do lots of things pretty much to shape your company any way you want it as far as online goes and how people view the company. And I'm not going to pretend I know everything about it, so I'm going to ask Garrett a little bit about VIE Media.
So VIE Media is a full-service digital marketing company. Our main focus is on the digital stuff, so Facebook and Instagram advertising. Branding is the one thing we do that's not 100% digital, but it definitely plays in the digital, obviously, because your logo, your colors, your fonts, your brand. And
that's kind of a starting point, though.
Yeah, that's part of your foundation, and that's where we focus, and that's actually the biggest differentiator between us and our competition. Is that we focus on your foundation first, whereas a lot of marketing firms try to push you straight into monthly advertising.
Well, and I've dealt with some in the past, and they're not really interested in your look, your logo, or really even what you're about. What they're interested in is a monthly contract.
Yeah.
To get whatever they can out of you until you move on or just decide to go with somebody else.
Yeah. That's pretty much how it's done, and it makes sense because if they lock you in an annual contract, usually you're talking 6 to 24 months, and then they can count on that revenue for that period of time. It's easier to do the books that way, obviously, but the bottom line is if you focus on a company's foundation first and foremost, then your monthly advertising that you do later on is going to be more successful because you corrected any foundational flaws. Or for a startup company, which we deal with from time to time, you build that foundation first. And so having all of that foundational stuff taken care of prior to advertising is extremely paramount.
So how did you even come up with the concept of VIE Media, like even the name? I've always been interested in the name, because it's one of those names that is not like your traditional type name for a company.
Well, there's a lot of, in the marketing space and digital space, it's kind of a thing where lots of companies are coming up with weird names, like Weebly is the name of a website builder out there, stuff like that that's just odd. I kind of pride myself on my vernacular, so VIE is the English word that means to strive in competition with, and that's kind of what marketing is all about, is competing with other companies in your space. So that's kind of where I chose the name VIE. And then the logo, lots of people can't see it, but it actually has VIE in the logo. So you have the V, the I, and the E. The E's kind of wonky, but it's still there. So that's kind of where the logo came from as well.
Very interesting. So you're also a part owner of St. Louis Podcast, and give us a little bit of backstory on that, because
so that originated because I was going to start my own podcast and just didn't want to have a large overhead cost of buying a bunch of podcast equipment and then having it just sit there. So instead of rather it be something that cost me money, I thought, why not rent the space and the stuff out whenever I wasn't using the podcast equipment for my own podcast. And ironically enough, I've yet to record my own podcast because I've been so busy with the company.
Recording everybody else.
Recording everyone else now. So completely counterintuitive, totally destroyed what I was trying to do. But I will get to the point, and now I have another company, so that's kind of cool as well. But yeah, I mean, I just started it because I wanted to make a little bit of money while I was recording my own podcast.
Very interesting. Well, our podcast kind of coincided around the same time, and I had actually been laying the groundwork months prior. But as you know from your own experience, there's a lot that goes into to actually setting things up.
Yeah.
It's way more involved than I thought. I mean,
Yeah.
we spent 40 minutes today just trying to get the lighting right,
Yeah.
with this set, and it's still not 100%. But it's one of those things you could literally just spend hours trying to tweak it and get it just perfect.
Yeah, I'm a huge OCD guy when it comes to businesses that I'm involved in and my clients, which is why I'm really happy I delegate most of the nitty-gritty to my team at VIE Media, because I just take forever on the creative stuff. That I'm a terrible artist, so anything graphic design oriented just would look terrible in the first place. So it would never be done. But yeah, you could spend eternity trying to nitpick and make your brand look better and better. So,
well, I have to say you're probably one of the most ambitious young people that I've met here in this past year. Just very, very, very driven, very focused. You have kind of a vision, and what would you say that comes from? Because there's going to be some younger people listening to this, and even some older people that can gain from your knowledge with this.
Yeah. Want to say my biggest drive has always been, I guess it all came from a bunch of failure. I job from about 17 to 22 and a half. Years of age, of course. I job hopped a lot and figured out what I did and didn't like at a very expedited pace, because I wasn't afraid to commit resume suicide, so to speak. And in doing that, I discovered what I did and did not like very quickly. And so when I did that, I realized that I realized two things. One, that I can do what I like very, very well if I truly do like it and can stay passionate about it for an extended period of time. The key is getting past that honeymoon phase. With relationships and jobs and businesses alike, you have the honeymoon phase where you start a new job, for instance, and you like it even if it's not your forte for the first few months just because it's new. And then after that, you kind of find out whether it's something you do or don't like. And that's how it was for me, at least. So instead of sticking with it for at least 2 years like a lot of people do just for the resume, I kind of just moved it aside and didn't really care for that 17 to 22 and a half. And then when I found out what I liked to do, I was starting at like 21 and a half. On the side of my jobs, I was doing personal branding, social media marketing for top producing mortgage and real estate clientele. And so I would help them build their Facebook page, teach them how to post correctly, how to create a good-looking post, stuff like that.
So you kind of stumbled into this.
Yeah, I stumbled into it, doing it on the side while I was in the mortgage and real estate industry and credit repair industry.
So are you a lot like me? So when I wouldn't say master something, but get good at it, I get bored.
Yeah, definitely. That's 100%.
And when I get bored, that's like my downfall.
Yeah, that's how it is for me. That's how it was at these jobs, because I did a lot of sales, and so I'd become a top producer. And then as soon as I got to that point, which was usually about 2 or 3 months into the job, that's when I would get bored.
So I've gotten a real sense just in the time that we've gotten to know each other and been around each other in different get-togethers and so forth, that the real drive for you is you love the creativity of branding a company and then watching them start to see the residuals as a result of that really tight branding.
Well, like you say, you get bored when you deal with something and then you get good at it. With marketing, I get to deal with something new all the time because I'm dealing with a new company, and every company, there's a lot of marketing companies out there that approach things with a cookie cutter approach, and that's just like not the correct way to do things. If you find something that applies to every company, good for you, but most of the time in my line of work, everything is a very custom approach, and so every single client is a new experience for me. And so that's what helps me stay interested.
Because you have several meetings with people before you actually get to the point of implementing these things.
I mean, it's a medium to long term sales cycle.
Because you really you dig in and really find out what the company's about, kind of what their culture is, and how to shape that into a brand.
Yeah.
So,
But I digress. You asked what my main drive was. My main drive was just always, I always knew, I think from a young age, I knew I wanted to start a company. And I had tried when I was 20, 21, I tried, but all my friends were in college and no older people wanted to listen to me yet. So I tried and failed. No one wanted to join up, so it was just me. And I honestly didn't have enough know-how.
what was the company, if you don't mind?
It was going to be personal branding.
Oh, personal branding.
Yeah, so it was going to be personal branding for mortgage and real estate agents. And that's why I was doing it on the side by myself. And I had talked to some friends, some that work with me now at VIE Media, that were busy with college and said no or gave me not definitive answer on joining the cause at the time. So it didn't amount to anything then, and it probably shouldn't have, because I didn't know anything about business or business ownership. More so, I just knew about sales, and I knew very little about marketing at the time. I knew just enough to know I didn't know anything and to be just dangerous enough to sell it. That's why I had a few clientele on the side while I was working at whatever jobs I was throughout the years. And but my main drive behind owning a company is I kind of want to provide financial freedom to myself and have flexible schedule and enjoy all that. But really just for my future family, like that's my main thing, is that like when I pass away, really the only thing you have that lives on is what kind of, for lack of a better term, what legacy you built. And so building a legacy for my like future family that doesn't even exist, so it sounds silly, but also for my existing direct family. I want to build something that is there for them, you know. So.
Well, I know you and I had talked in the past. We had similar, probably not the easiest childhoods, so to speak, challenging on a few different levels. And you overcame a lot of that in the fact that you are now the head of 2 successful companies is proof that anything's possible.
Yeah, of course.
And I do know that you also have mentors that you've worked with and work with currently, and people that you are connected with that have helped to grow your foundation as far as in business and just some of the dynamics of business and, you know, putting that together, so to speak.
Yeah. No, that's mentor. I mean, overcoming my journey here has definitely been interesting, and the people who have helped me get here are a huge part of that. Mentors are, I mean, you hear everyone talk about having mentors and stuff, but a lot of people don't actually go out and find someone that they will listen to. So,
well, and one thing I know with you is I don't ever hear excuses. You're always striving for something bigger. But we've both have encountered a lot of people presently and even in the past that are kind of stuck. Kind of stuck by self-imposed limitations or mindsets as far as what they're capable of accomplishing and making happen in their life. And you've overcome a lot because you didn't really have a lot of support, so to speak, as some people may when starting out with this journey.
Yeah. No, when I started, I think I was working at a startup company, and they were based in the car industry. They were going to basically have real estate agents for cars. I was working at a startup company, and I think I had $350 measly dollars in my bank account when I started the company and stopped working where I was working. And but I had 2 clients that I knew were going to take care of things financially just enough to where I'd get by, and I needed to focus on it full time, otherwise I knew it wasn't going to amount to anything. And yeah, I mean, I started on my own. I didn't get any investment money or pursue any of that, nor did I know how at the time. So,
and you just got some good news today, didn't you?
I did. You
want to share that with us, because that's kind of proof that whatever you've been doing is obviously getting noticed.
Yeah, so we just got selected by Small Business Monthly St. Louis as one of the best marketing firms in St. Louis. Got the email today, so that's great news. It'll be 3 years. In 2 weeks, it'll be 3 years that my company's VIE Media has been in business. And yeah, so it's great news. And it took 3 years to get that kind of recognition. So.
And you're also going to be partnering up to take over the marketing and social media for a big event that's coming here in October in St. Louis as well.
The Live to Lead?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be involved in marketing that event. Very excited to be a part of that. I mean, that's a John C. Maxwell sanctioned event. So, I mean, that's a big deal for us.
So, for younger people or maybe people struggling, even at a job, thinking about doing something on their own, or maybe they're doing something on their own, but it's just kind of struggling, what are some tips you would give people, like, as far as things that you practice on a daily?
For people like starting a business or what?
Yeah, some people get started, like they jump into wanting to start their own business. They've always worked for companies and find out the roads aren't paved with gold.
Yeah, definitely not.
That there's actually a lot of work
that's
involved in it.
I guess the best pieces of advice are and this sounds so cliche. Lots of things I'll say sound cliche and you've heard them before. They don't really matter to you until they click, and I can't really explain what clicking is. It's just something that happens.
Sure.
But like, hey, never give up, and you will eventually succeed. And don't look as failures, because failures, when you do give up, that's the only way you can fail, is by giving up, unless it's needs to be accomplished within a certain period of time. And if it's not accomplished within that period of time, it's no longer an option. Unless that's the case, you can't possibly fail unless you give up. So just don't give up and look at failures as stepping stones towards success. Fail your way forward. That's one of the biggest things. I mean, that's quite literally why I am where I am, is because I failed forward. And
you have a neat perspective on that, because and actually it's something you and I are very similar in, that instead of looking at it as failure, you look at it as a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
Because can you think of any point in your journey, maybe early on, that maybe based on frustration or not reaching the level you want it to, can you imagine if you would have just threw in the towel at that point? Can you think of any point where you were like right on the edge, where you're like...
No, plenty of times. Yeah.
So, what did you do to kind of push yourself forward on that?
Looked at my alternatives. For instance,
working for someone.
Working for someone. It was like at certain times, VIE Media has been so stressful, and business ownership has been so stressful, to where there are nights where I'm just laying in bed contemplating, this is the end type situation.
Did you ever have a big deal come through, like right at the last hour?
No, it was never. It was never because of a big deal that I didn't do that. It was really just me talking to myself and realizing, like I said, the alternatives of, well, I'd either have to start over from scratch with this business, which why would I do that? Because I already have this built.
Right.
Unless I wanted to do a different type of business, which I really didn't want to do. So it's like if I... really, my alternative was never to get a job. So my alternative, that was never an option for me at any point. I've talked to other people, like family members. I remember talking to my mom and dad on several occasions before the business got to where it is now. And they were just saying, get a job at night, or just quit what you're doing and get a job. And that was just I remember just being livid just hearing that as an option.
I remember as far back when I first started working, that you would always find people that were company people, which I'm not knocking at whatsoever. I think, if that's what you're cut of, great. But that was never my aspiration with any company I ever worked for. I just knew that was not going to be my landing spot.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that for me was just the entrepreneur in me.
Yeah.
Is just realizing that, no, I'm not going to spend 30 years working here.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the long term, that's kind of what I did, is I thought about my options. I was like, even if I started, even if I gave up on VIE Media and stlouispodcast.com for some reason, I could never see myself working 9 to 5 or whatever until I retire. It was just never an option for me. So I'd much rather give this a shot, which even if I failed, I'd just try it again. I'd try again and again and again. I'd just start new companies for the rest of my life until it succeeded. And I'd be way happier doing that and dealing with the stresses of that than working for someone. But like John said, like you said, it does. That's not how everyone is. Not everyone needs to think that way. Everyone.
I always hated it about
preference.
myself, though. It's like I want to be like I remember having jobs early on, and they're like, "Look, we really want to promote you to, assistant manager of this department and so forth and so forth." And I'd be like, I'm just not interested.
Mm-hmm.
And their impression was, I guess to some degree, was non-committed,
Mm-hmm.
which is true because I knew that it was just a stepping stone to keep the lights on, keep gas in the car until I came up with something.
Yeah.
Like I was always, since a young man, always thinking about, coming up with some type of business or ideas. And I get that impression with you all the time because you're constantly morphing into different things.
Yeah, that's how having a job was for me. That was like just to make ends meet.
Yeah.
Until I figured out what it was. It was hard because I realized what I wanted to do, but I didn't have the know-how when I was younger. But I had to figure something out quick because even though I didn't plan on working for someone, and I knew I was going to eventually own a company, I also didn't want to damage my reputation by job hopping too much, and St. Louis is a small, big city. So even though I didn't care about my resume at the time, I also didn't want to affect my reputation, so I had to figure out what I was doing very quickly. So I only burned myself for 2 or 3 years before I figured it out, and it all worked out.
So as far as your company and the way you do business, what is like the underlining principle of like what is your most important principle as far as how you conduct business and grow your business or even start other businesses? If you could think of one thing.
Good question. Number one thing with any type of business, and I think this shouldn't apply just to me, but it definitely applies to mine, is just making sure that you're providing something that's valuable. And people always say the customer's always right. I don't abide by that at all. Maybe that's like a thing in retail or foods, but
we were always told that as young people.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, the customer's always right.
No, customer service always comes first, and if you care so much about customer service, then you need to be honest as possible
Absolutely.
with your clients and prospects.
And sometimes it hurts feelings.
Yeah, it does, and I'm very forward and blunt, as you know. So, and I can't help it to save my life, and so is Eric Brown, one of my partners. He's even more so than I. And
but if you smile while you're doing it,
yeah,
it softens.
It's all
it.
about the tone, and I could work on that. But no, customer service in a very honest and blunt way is the number one underlying thing for all businesses, in my opinion. Not telling them what they want to hear, but rather what they need to hear. So long as you are confident that you're giving them good advice and good direction, that you indeed know more so than they do on the subject, and you're providing customer service from that standpoint.
Well, I do know that, naturally money's important,
Mm-hmm.
and it's necessary to grow any type of business. But I know that you also add a lot of value to people around you without money attached to it.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk a little bit about that?
In what way? Like doing favors and
Well,
and work,
it's not so much
helping other
favors.
companies out?
I think of a seminar you guys did a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
You added a lot of value to people in that room, and that was no charge.
Yeah, so stuff like that's super important. And Gary Vaynerchuk kind of tackles this subject a little bit, and it's doing work for free or providing value for free. One, it's a really nice thing to do, and lots of the people at that seminar, for example, weren't our ideal prospects, but we could see that they could benefit a lot from that information, and it's probably the only way they'd get it is from a free seminar or something that's inexpensive. And then also, it's a good sales strategy as well. So not only are you going out there and you're helping a lot of people and small businesses, which really that's another thing I love so much, is always dealing with new clients and then seeing these businesses benefit. Because after that seminar, for example, I saw multiple companies go out and use some of that advice immediately.
That's got to be a thrill.
That was a thrill to see, because that actually shows that I indeed helped at least one person in that room. That is awesome. But it's a great sales strategy as well, because even if not a single person in that room is an ideal client, they're going to talk about the experience and the advice with someone who may be an ideal client and reaches out and contacts us.
That's what's key, and I think that's a lot of what's been lost in a lot of business these days, is everybody's so worried about getting that money and not necessarily looking at adding value to those around them.
Well, that's how to providing value is one of the best ways to have people see that they want to work with you. If you're just trying to hard sell them rather than consultatively sell them,
right,
you're going to have a much harder time acquiring clients. I was on Chris and Deanna's podcast, ICAG podcast, and we talked about the differences between regular selling and consultative selling. And it's kind of an evolution I went from, because I started selling at the age of 17. Now it's been almost 10 years of selling. And I started as a hardcore closer type guy rather than a consultative seller, and you kind of evolve out of that as you become a better business person. You go from being a hardcore salesperson to someone who's consultatively selling and providing value.
Kind of like the furniture guy. Have you ever went and looked at furniture?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's like, dude, if I'm going to buy a couch, I will come find you.
Yeah.
You will be the first person I
Yeah.
find. You know, it's like, I don't have any questions. You have like 300 couches in here. My wife would like to try out at least 200 of them. You know what I'm saying? Because that's her personality.
Yeah.
Like, she goes front to back on purchases. Me, looks good, it's comfortable, 5 minutes, made my decision, let's get it.
Yeah.
Her, months.
Yeah.
Which is fine, because every time she buys something, it's really good quality at a great value. But you know, I've dealt with people like that, and I was probably one of those type of people early on when I was selling 18 years of age, basically a hunter is what I call it, you know. And now I'm more of a farmer. I like building relationships with people.
That's the key.
And you never know where a relationship could lead.
You never know.
And you never underestimate who people know. So even though someone may not appear to be of status to certain profession or what have you, doesn't mean they don't know somebody.
Yeah, no, that's another big thing is I see is a lot of people doing exactly that, discounting people because they're judging books by their covers, and they're missing out big time due to that mistake. Treating everyone equally, so to speak, is a huge key.
Yes.
One, morally, you should just do that because you're not an asshole. But two, because what you were saying, you never know who someone knows or what they may become later on as well themselves. So always giving everyone the same chance and treating everyone equally within business and outside of business is huge. And just the right thing to do, frankly. I mean, there's so many people we sit down with on a monthly basis and consult with them about their marketing, knowing that they'll probably not be a client for the foreseeable future. And we do that just to pay it forward and to help them out. And in doing so, it's also a good marketing technique as well, because
they remember VIE Media.
They remember us because we helped them out, and we didn't really charge them anything. You know, we just,
especially if they have some success, like you were saying with that last seminar you had, watching these people actually implement these tools that you've given them, which undeniably it's going to incur some level of success for them.
Yeah, it'll help them in some way, shape, and form.
You know. You also do a lot with a certain charity. Did you want to talk a little bit about
Foundation, that? Yeah, so I'm on the board of a nonprofit organization called the KMA Foundation, and what they do is they focus on improving roadways in cooperation with MoDOT, so they'll find roads that have high fatality rates.
And just to stop you real quick, when you first approached me about this, I didn't know the backstory behind it.
Mm-hmm.
You were just kind of describing the charity, and I'm like,
Sure.
how does someone get tied into
Yeah.
fixing roads? I mean, not that we don't need a lot of roads fixed, but so what's the backstory on
So
this?
the backstory. So Sean Archambault, he's the chairman of the KMA Foundation. His daughter, around 2010, 2011, his daughter passed away in a fatal car accident here in Missouri. And it was just a very dangerous road. And she's not the only person I know who got in an accident and died on that road.
Right.
One of my friends, both his parents, 8 years apart, passed away on that road.
Wow.
One of my friends himself passed away on that road. And then, of course, Kayla Archambault, Sean's daughter, passed away on that road as well. So this road had a terrible history of just being a dangerous road. So Sean, he turned that tragedy into a passion and started the KMA Foundation, Kayla Marie Archambault Foundation. And it also stands for Keeping Memories Alive. And so it's broken down into three different things they work on. One of them is roadway improvements, and they cooperate with MoDOT, the Missouri Department of Transportation, to change high fatality roadways and change them, like put rumble strips on the side, make them wider, put rumble strip in the middle, do whatever they can to reduce the amount of fatal car accidents or car accidents in general that happen on these roadways.
Sure.
So that's one of the things they do. The other thing is they go to high schools and they spread awareness about safe driving to high school age students. And they've gone to, I want to say, over 50 high schools here in Missouri alone, and gone to lots of these multiple times over the years. And just presented presentations about safe driving techniques, wearing your seatbelt, not texting and driving, and of course keeping the memory alive of what has happened and what could happen if you don't drive safely and follow these techniques.
Yeah, when I met Sean and we talked, I mean, I was just blown away.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm a father of 4, can't even imagine, didn't pretend to try to imagine, but his story was very inspiring to me. And I think it says a lot about you as an entrepreneur with as much time and energy that you put into that charity. And it's not the only thing that you're a part of, but it's definitely in the forefront.
Yeah, it's probably the most important thing I'm a part of. You know, I wish I could, I hope to spend more time on it moving forward, because compared to for-profit businesses that are, helping out in a way, because a marketing company helps small businesses, and that's like one of my focuses. We work with big businesses, but my pleasure is in helping the small businesses that actually need the help more so than the big ones. So the KMA Foundation, being able to partake in something that's 100% about helping is just great.
Yeah, I was blown away at the function you guys had a couple weekends ago with the kickball.
Yeah.
My vision was some people at a field. I didn't realize you guys were going to have the entire park
Yeah.
playing kickball.
Yeah, and usually it's bigger than it was this year.
I mean, it was serious event though.
Yeah, we had umpires for the kickball tournament.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. And so St. Louis Podcast is very similar
Mm-hmm.
to kind of what you do at VIE Media, in the sense that you're trying to elevate, put a foundation for small businesses to be able to elevate themselves in such a way that they might not be able to just because of the investment, space, knowledge, et cetera, et cetera. Talk a little bit about St. Louis Podcast.
So like I said, I started this company just because I didn't want to have the overhead costs and not be able to pay it off of my own podcast.
Right.
And so basically we just looked at Joe Rogan's podcast and kind of bought the same equipment he has, because he's one of the best in the business.
Sure.
And we got a space, filled it up with the equipment. And what it is, we rent out that space to people so they can record their own podcasts. And they don't control the equipment and stuff. We have a professional video and audio guy who takes care of all that while they just do their podcast, do their thing like we are now.
But what a great format, though, to elevate smaller entrepreneurs.
No, yeah. So when it comes to its similarities to VIE, it's very similar, because lots of the people we talk to, they either have a podcast and they're half-assing it at best, or they don't have a podcast at all and they're trying to learn about it. So it's very much like a lot of our clients at VIE, because we have to focus on the foundation first. Their social media presence, where they want the podcast to go out on, because you want it on Spotify, Google Play Music, Apple Podcasts, but you also want a video format that's going out on YouTube, Facebook, IGTV, stuff like that. So addressing their foundational needs and getting those platforms built out is first and foremost. And then it's just voice is becoming such a huge thing. You have Google Home and Alexa in so many households, and people are consuming their content through that. They're consuming their content through their radio in the car, but not listening to the radio, rather than listening to what they have on a playlist on their Spotify or their Google Play Music or their Apple.
Well, podcasts is a really emerging industry now. And I attribute a lot of that to the fact that just what we're doing here today, people want to learn.
Yeah, they do.
They want some knowledge.
And it's an entertaining way to learn.
You know, and getting back, kind of rewinding a little bit when you were talking about pushing through those days that you wanted to throw in the towel, or you were frustrated or discouraged. You know, I think sometimes people get into businesses thinking that they're just waiting for the big thing.
Yeah.
But it's actually a bunch of little things that get you to that point. Like if you reflect back the past 3 years of all the little things that's gotten you to where you're at now.
Yeah, I mean, all it has been is a bunch of little things.
So perseverance is very important.
Yeah, no, perseverance is everything. And one of the issues with what you were saying, and that is how people think. Lots of people wait for the big thing to come, and nothing's coming to you. No one owes you anything, and nothing. Luck doesn't exist in my mind, and neither does karma. Karma is more of like and this has a lot to do with giving value. Karma isn't, it exists, but not in the fairy tale way that people think when they hear karma. It exists in a scientific way where people see you giving and they hear about you giving, therefore they're more likely to give to you. And it's more of a science thing or a psychology thing than a magical thing. And so lots of little acts of giving are like the biggest thing that have gotten us to where we are. And perseverance is huge because, like we were talking about earlier, I mean, there's just so many times where it was really hard to keep going. But because I kept going past that point, I was that stronger and less likely to run into that point again, if that makes any sense.
Oh, absolutely.
Once you get past that point of almost falling apart, then you're much less likely to get to that point again. And it happened a lot at the beginning, and now it hardly ever happens. And when it does, it's way easier to blast through that point of hardship and just think, I've been here before. This is easy. You know?
Well, I never like when people say luck, because there's no such thing as luck.
No.
What there is hard work and planning.
Yeah, hard work, planning. Yeah.
That equals luck.
Yeah.
You know, sitting in your house waiting for something to happen doesn't create anything.
Yeah. A quote I read, I don't know who said it, but it's funny because the harder I work, the more luck I have.
Oh, sure.
You know?
Yeah. I love that.
No shit.
So is there anything else you wanted to add to our sit-down here? Are we leaving anything out about you?
I mean, yeah, a lot. I mean, a lot happened between my professional life began at 17 and what is here now, and there's a lot that happened building up, but nothing too exciting, I'd say. Just a lot of, I do want to say one thing, advice is that like John, like you were kind of touching on, is that lots of the most successful people in the world come from very humble beginnings, and you don't have to have a certain background to succeed in any walk of life that you do. You just A, have to have planning, and B, you have to have hard work. And you need to go out there and realize that you can't do it alone. Lots of people think they can do it alone. I know there's such thing as solopreneur, but even they don't do it alone. They cooperate with people.
Oh, sure.
And they have people they outsource to or work with or mentors. They're not doing everything solely by themselves in any capacity. And so just realizing you can come from any background whatsoever and reach the goal that you want to reach. And one of the biggest things And this is another cliche that just clicked with me. This is actually the thing that made me stop working. I read the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Oh,
and I had
love that
one
book.
takeaway. And the takeaway is you can literally do anything you set your mind to, anything, so long as it doesn't defy physics. You know,
Right. Well, I'm not
that's
going
the
to take
one
a
thing.
ballet, but
Yeah, I mean, you could.
well, I
you know.
could, but I don't think that I'll be on a stage.
That's
anymore.
physics, though,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
its
yeah.
own right. You
I'm
know
not
what
quite
I
as
mean?
flexible as I used to
Yeah,
be.
exactly. And so keeping things that are like that in mind and really just realizing that if you want something bad enough, you can do it.
Well, really,
So-
the only limitations on you are the ones you impose on yourself,
Exactly.
because there really isn't any limitations except the ones
Yeah.
that
and
you
lots
cover
of people
yourself
just
up
need
with.
to break those down.
Right.
And it takes time. You cannot. Another thing that I've tried time and time again when I was getting started out is that there's changes I wanted to make in my life, and I would make the mistake of trying to change all of them overnight. When in reality, I probably couldn't change a damn one of them overnight. That changing just one of
I'm going to
those
quit smoking. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to quit drinking. You know.
There's
yeah.
some people that do that every now and then.
Well,
You hear
they
the
last about a
stories.
week,
Yeah,
maybe. But
yeah.
I mean, you know, the thing is it always gets back to small, incremental changes
Yeah.
done consistently.
Yeah, no, you can't, even one of those things that I wanted to change, like quitting smoking cigarettes before I quit smoking cigarettes, or quitting going out and partying, or making changes to the business that I wanted to change. Instead of, at first I would try to do these all overnight, and it would just never happen. It may go for a few days, a week, a couple weeks if I was lucky. Realizing that none of these changes would happen overnight. And in fact, I couldn't work on all of them at once over a long period of time. I needed to work on one of these at a time over a long period of time and then move on to the next one.
Were you crabby?
Was I crabby? Yeah. I was crabby.
I'm just thinking about quit smoking, quit partying.
Yeah.
You know, that's like
No.
all in the same week. That's a
Try doing that and having a happy relationship at the same time.
yeah. It usually doesn't pan out so
No.
well. Yeah. So well, this has been a fantastic interview, and I hope that everybody out here has gotten some value out of getting to know Garrett better and VIE Media and what he stands for. And we will have his website on the bottom and links to his website for both VIE Media and St. Louis Podcast. And if nothing else, just connect with Garrett. Just have a conversation with him.
Please.
I'll tell you what, this guy here, he will take time out to share his little nuggets in life and business, because that's what he does. And I want to thank you for coming on today.
Of course, ma'am. Thanks for having me.
And I want to thank everybody for tuning in to New Heights 360. And like I said, look up Garrett Atkins at VIE Media and stlouispodcast.com. You will not regret connecting with him on a relational basis.
Hope to hear from you.
Thank you and have a great day.